Shabbat shalom.
שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים יחד. שבת אחים גם יחד.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
Shabbos, Rabbi.
I didn't know you guys were all here. So help us with a tradition whenever we come together for our services. It's nice that we can come together as a community. It means you have to know the people you're sitting around who you may or may not know. Introduce yourself to them and wish them a good Shabbos.
Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Bim, bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, 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 bam. Yai-da-dai-da-dai-dai, bim, bam. Bim, 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 bam. Bim, 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 bim,
Bim bam. We're truly blessed on this Shabbos to be a part of a community as we honor not just the Sabbath, but what we have learned to call Organ Donor Shabbat. As we learn about this mitzvah, about the reality and the need in our community. But first, we enjoy our prayers of Shabbat. We enjoy the peacefulness of Sabbath, the calm that we create together. And so we'll enjoy our service, and then we have the opportunity to hear from some very special individuals within our community and to learn a little more together as well. So we begin our service on page 16 of our prayer books as I invite up Alicia Stillman and Marcy Bernstein, two of our hosts of this special evening, to lead us in the lighting of the Sabbath tapers.
Let us welcome Shabbat with light and with love.
May we bring
Shabbat into our hearts, into our souls, and into our homes.
May the glow of these candles light our way in the world.
May we never feel lost or alone with our people by our side.
May the glow of these tapers bring a spirit of renewal to our lives.
May we see our world with eyes that are wise.
May the flames that we kindle inspire us with the warmth of our people and the faith they cherished.
As we bless these candles, so may we be blessed by their light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
Blessed are you, eternal our God, ruler of the universe, who has commanded us to kindle the lights of Shabbat.
May we be blessed with the joy of Shabbat.
May we be blessed with the holiness of Shabbat.
May we be blessed with the warmth of Shabbat.
May we be blessed with Shabbat peace.
Amen.
Shabbat to teach us that life can be filled with holiness and happiness only if we take the time to experience what the world has to offer. As we praise God for the sweetness of wine, so do we express our appreciation for the sweetness of life. For all the blessings that life has to offer, for home, health, love, work, friendship, and especially for the chance to appreciate the gifts we've been blessed with. So we raise the cup that has symbolized the fruit of the vine and the joy of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim.
Begin the formal prayers of our service. I just want to share one quick announcement as well. As our congregation has grown and we've been blessed with more and more members, so of course as the names and the families and the individuals we remember as well with our prayers of mourning with our Yortzeit. So if you have a prayer of memorial, if you have an individual you'd like to remember on this night, someone, whether you've been sent a Yortzeit notice and you're a member of our congregation, or you're a guest here and you want to add a name to our list, we ask you to check in with our ushers and make sure we add that name so at the conclusion of our prayers tonight, we can read all the names appropriate for our Kaddish prayers. Formally begin our service with our calls to worship on page 20 of our prayer book as we rise together. Baruch hu et Adonai Hambarach. Praise be our God, to whom all praise is due. Baruch Adonai Hambarach le'olam va'ed. Praise be our God, to whom all praise is due now and forever.
Lai la lai 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 la lai 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 lai.
Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bivaro ma'ariv aravim, v'chochma potea she'arim, uvitvuna mishaneh itim, umachalif et hazmanim, sader et hakochavim b'mishmerotea b'rakia kirtzono. Praise are you, our God, ruler of the world, who brings about the evening star. Your wisdom makes the dawn appear. Differentiate the times and seasons of our lives. The clocks follow their courses as a sign of the divine creative force in the universe. You have created the day and night, even though you cause the day to disappear and you bring on the night, you develop the separation and distinction one from the other. We call you ruler of the universe, but you are our living God. May you create understanding among us, so that we might never take nature for granted. Praise are you, our Creator, who causes night to fall. As we recite the watchword of our faith, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
And on page 22, you shall love the eternal your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Set these words which I command you this day upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. They shall be a symbol before your eyes. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. So shall you consecrate yourselves to your God. I, the Eternal, am your God, who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I, the Eternal,
am your God.
These eternal words have been a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path.
Faith and choice bring understanding to the soul and sensitivity to the heart.
In all times and places, our God has been a part of our lives.
Our faith has been our rock and our help.
We witnessed God's wonders when we went free from Egypt.
When slavery's chains were broken, we witnessed it.
May those who have the faith to believe also have the wisdom to be kind.
O God, in whom we have all hope, we glorify your name now as our people have praised you. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi chamocha neder bakodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
We turn to page 25 in our prayer books for the Amidah, our central prayers of worship, and we rise together. We take a moment of silent meditation, either following the words in our prayer books or those our hearts might prompt.
והגיון לפניך. אדוני, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, תפתחו פי יגיד תהילתך. Eternal God, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי לאה ואלוהי רחל. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל. וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לפני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש בשמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
You are holy, and your name is holy. We sing your praises every day. Praised are you, the holy God. Please be seated.
השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us with wisdom, compassion, and trust. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu Malkeinu l'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim.
Let us lie down in peace, O God. Permit us to wake up in the security of knowing we are safe and loved. Be a shield around us and keep enemies, disease, violence, homelessness, and hunger far away from those we love. Keep us safe in the shadow of your wings, for you are our protector. You show compassion and mercy when you permit us the experience of seeing the shelter of your peace. Give to your people Israel and the world a time of peace.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת.
As Israel has preserved the Sabbath, so the Sabbath has preserved Israel. It's an everlasting covenant between God and the children of Israel. It's a reminder of creation. For in 6 days God created the heavens and the earth. The seventh day God sanctified all life with rest.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol השלום, כי אתה הוא מלך אדום לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים
Together on page 29, we read our prayers of peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country, that it may always be a stronghold of peace, an advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship among the inhabitants of all lands. May the love of your name fill every home and every heart. Blessed is the eternal God, the source of peace. This day is Shabbat. One day we have in the midst of our hectic week to take a little more time for ourselves. One day we have in the midst of our hectic lives, take a little more time for ourselves as well, enough at least to close our prayer books and to put them away. To release ourselves for a moment of a printed word and to let go. And to trust enough as well for a moment to close our eyes and to take a deep breath and to relax. To breathe in God's gift to each and every one of us, and to breathe out our gift to this very world. And Shabbat, it's the Sabbath. The moment in time we can take the time to focus on blessings that are really there each and every day. And the busyness and the hecticness and the craziness of our world, of our lives, so often we neglect, we miss, we run past, we forget to give ourselves pause. And so the gift we have at this very moment is just to be able to breathe and to recognize and to appreciate that which is there really each and every day, that which is there as a part of our lives, of our world, that is filled with goodness and kindness and love and compassion. How we felt that in our own being, how we felt that in this past week. Maybe from someone close to us, in our family, in our circle, or maybe the kindness of a stranger. The reminder of that divine spark that resides within each and every human soul. A reminder of what each of us has to bring into this world. A reminder of the blessings that are there so often, so much in who we are. The simplest things are there to wake us up. The cool, crisp air on our cheek, the whisper of a child, the touch of a friend, a memory that we hold dear. a memory that reminds us of the values that we hold on so tightly, that we bring into this world, the gifts that we continue to share. So much that's a blessing each and every day. So much the ancients remind us in moments such as this that we can give thanks. So much, and that we create this moment for ourselves. In doing that, it's not that we make this day Shabbat, the Sabbath, it's that we make our Shabbat just a little more kadosh, a little more holy. Zehayom asa Adonai nagilav nismachavo. This is the day that God has made. Let us rejoice and let us be glad in it. Hine matovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov manayim shevet achim gam yachad. In times when we come together as a community, in the Jewish world, we pause in the midst of our prayers as we bring Torah into our midst and think of those in need of healing and strength. Just as Torah has been a source of our learning, source of our knowledge, so is it a reminder of our strength and the hope that we gain in this world. And so as we walk around with the Torah in just a moment, we reach out, we touch it, we mention names out loud of those we're thinking of in the midst of our prayers. We gain strength in mentioning those names. We remind others who we're thinking of, who we link ourselves with as a community. It's a call out. It's a connection. It's a reminder that we don't have all the answers, but that we come together as a community to give ourselves hope and we give ourselves strength. Please rise. Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, merciful God, who has blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Becca, Leah, and Rachel, send your blessings to our loved ones who are stricken with illness and anxiety, especially those friends and family of our congregation we mentioned this time. Greg Adams, Alyssa Ioto, Stephen Averbuck, Susan Averbuck, Alyssa Bandoline, Suzanne Becker, Batia, Pesha Panina, Elsie Bellinger, Carol Binder, Simon Bink, Joel Bustle, Pat Carey, Karen Kasman, Alexis Chadwick, Bill Cooperstock, Gary Fishman, Mara Goldberg, Hank Heiser, Herschel Feibel, Ben Benjamin Vigittel, Vera Hopkins Gordon, Ethan Kadish, Paul Colt, Sarah Fina Coffrin, Leba Sarabat Yocheved, Jen Landsberg, Henry Leopold, Lon Riva, Bat Raphael Vachaya, Zoe Marcus, Len Meiji, Charlotte Milgram, Larry Miller, Sherry Minlin, Deborah Mursky, Greg Newman, Sylvia Rosen, Laura Roth, Shmuel Ben Rachel, Alan Rosen, Noni St. Amman, Ernest Schoen, Sadie Emerson Schwartz, David Schulman, Sonia Sklar, Harriet Stone, Lisa Weiner, Paul Wooden, Loretta Ziegelman, as well as all of those who await and are in need of an organ transplant. We think of it this Shabbat as we link ourselves with them, as well as the 20,095 American troops who been injured in Iraq and Afghanistan to date, and all, of course, the names in our hearts. Baruch, Atah Nair Cholim. Bless you, God, to give strength to those in need.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
Kaddish may be understood as a praise for the gift of life and love and thought. It's a reminder of all that came before us, a testament to the psalmists and sages, the poets and prophets of our people who made our life and our faith possible. Celebration of all our past, celebration of our present and our future. No, it never mentions death. It's a reminder of all the friendships we've cherished and the memories we've shared. and even in the most painful times, the Kaddish is our statement of faith. It's time in our prayers, our thoughts, turn to those taken from our midst in this past month, whose Shoshim we mark friends and family of our congregation. Colt DeVerne, Robert Weiner, Ethel Jean Light, Stephen Liss, Harvey Mann, as well as the victims of the Tree of Life Or Chadash Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Those 2,382 Americans in our armed forces lost in Afghanistan and surrounding areas to date. Linking their names and names as your sites we mark on the Shabbat. Those whose anniversary of passing we love and commemorate. Friends and family of our community. Sarah Bank, Sam Abramson, Ann Jerry Barr, Jean Bellett, Peter Chudaroff, Morris Diskin, Harry Disner, Myra Eber, Francis Effersey, Leon Falk, Diane Fishman, Dorothy Kaufman-Fruman, Jim Ginn, Charlotte Harris, Adele Hoffman, William Jablonski, Marjorie Jacobs, Martin Jacobs, Jerome Cantor, Ann Lankin, Richard Lankin, David Levine, Harold Merritt, Jeremy Money, Charles Moskowitz, Belle Robinson, Sidney Rosenblatt, Cheryl Safe, Nathaniel Sandler, Stanley Schumann, Irving Steinberg, Julianne Silverstein Vinnick. Linking their names with all the names that we do not recite on the Shabbat, those of every faith and family whose lives have touched ours, those whose lives have passed who generously gave their organs to save another life. All of those who we think of at this time in our community. We link together as a congregation, as together we say the immortal words of the Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 46 of our prayer books. Yikadal, v'yikadash shemei rabbah, v'yamad divrach v'yiratei v'yamich machutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon u'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agalam u'bizman kari v'imru, Yehei shmei rabbah v'barach elam amei amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitnadar v'yitnaleh v'yitnalal, shmei kudusha b'richu, v'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushvachata v'nechamata, datnaram v'yama v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shama rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yimru. Shalom b'mramav. Huya aseh shalom. Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yimru. The source of peace and peace to those who mourn. Comfort to those who are bereaved here and everywhere. And let us say,
Oseh shalom b'mramav. Huya aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav. Huya aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
good Shabbos, everyone.
Shabbos, Rabbi.
As a special opportunity this evening, as part of our services, as we honor and celebrate Organ Donor Shabbat, so do we get to hear from some very special individuals. It's not often that I turn over the pulpit to allow someone else to speak so freely and having no idea what Alicia and Michael might say, but it shows you my trust in my friends because of what they've taught me in these past almost 7 years. We're really blessed to have a community that supports one another and helps one another. And I feel very honored that in our congregation we'll get to hear tonight from a physician whose experience is great and has so much to share with us, as well as from a minister, from a reverend, as well as come to join with us from Maryland and share too. But what really makes this all possible are 2 people and 4 people now. Are Alicia and Michael Stillman and Ian and Marcy Bernstein. When Alicia called me 6+ years ago and said, "What are we doing for Organ Donor Shabbat?" And I said, "What's Organ Donor Shabbat?" And she explained to me what it was, and I said, "Well, we have some very special speakers, Alicia and Michael Stillman." We didn't know what that really meant at the time. There was a few of us gathering together, I think over a bottle of Blanton's bourbon. Thanks, Michael. And we shared some stories. But since then, how much you have taught us, and I know the Bernsteins will share as well how much you've taught them in their journey as well. And so we are blessed because you're a part of our lives. Really, the 4 of you are a part of our lives, and how that generosity and that sense of giving has really given so much to our congregation and to so many that are touched by our congregation. As I shared as we sat at dinner this evening, and my son proudly came home with his driver's license a couple months ago and showed us that he had the organ donor tag on there. That would not have been possible if you were not a part of our lives, if you had not taught them. I think many of us feel similarly. So Alicia and Michael and Ian and Marcy, you made tonight possible. So I turn this over to you now to share with the rest of us. Thank you. The prayers are over. We can clap for them.
Hi, everybody. So welcome to, as Rabbi Mike said, our 6th annual Organ Donor Shabbat. So I'm Michael Stillman, obviously, and I'm Alicia's husband. And let me say that really this is all Alicia, not me. Alicia this morning said, you're going to speak, right? And I said, give me some bullet points. And, when I get home from work, I'll look at it. And, in addition to being Alicia's husband, I am also father of 3 amazing children, and one of them who is the reason that we're here tonight, really, which is Emily, and she's here with us always. So we're really proud of this event. It has brought about a lot of awareness. It's brought some great speakers. It's made some great connections. And it's really all, like I said, because of Alicia. And then, lo and behold, Alicia and Ian become friends, and Ian and Marcy join in that crusade. And together, we're really pleased and proud to be able to add them as our partners in sponsoring this together and going down this journey together. And so that's amazing. So first off, let me also tell you that I asked Alicia to give me some bullet points. She gave me a piece of paper and had no bullet points. So fortunately, I sat next to Rabbi Mike at dinner, and I mentioned it to him, and he pulled out his pen, and he made bullet points. So it made it a lot easier for me, but I'm just going to skip down to the bottom before I continue on. And the last thing he said is, and I really, really like Rabbi Mike.
No, I really, really love Rabbi Mike.
Really love Rabbi Mike, yeah. So I wanted to share that with you. So, spreading the word, as Rabbi Mike said, he was really proud when his son came home and showed his license that he was an organ donor, and right, why not? What's going to happen to our organs when we're gone? I mean, that's what we all should be doing. It should be an automatic, and you should have to opt out. But something's being done right, because some statistics that my wonderful wife shared for me to share with you. Then 2011 in Michigan, there was a 27% of all eligible people were registered donors. And then, no, 27 at the beginning. So can you let me speak? Thank you. So, she gives me the material and then wants to correct the material that she gave me, okay? For those, I can read, I'm capable. So in 2011, 27% of all eligible people were registered. And then, according to Gift of Life's latest figures, we are at 2 out of every 3 people. What's the percentage? 67% of all people now registered. So that's pretty amazing, and it would not have been done without Alicia making sure that she told everybody the correct percentage. So let me say that in years past, in 4 of the last 5 years that we've done this, we've been really fortunate that we've had some of our donors here with us, our recipients here with us. This year we don't, unfortunately, and that's a little bittersweet. We do have relationships we had relationships with several of our recipients. Some of them are no longer with us. 2 of them are still with us, and we still do have relationships, but unfortunately they just could not join us tonight. They both had other things that they needed to attend to around their families, and we certainly understand, but they're missed by us tonight. So, I mentioned our Emily, and without Emily, we wouldn't be here, because Alicia and I wouldn't be here. It definitely was not on our radar, and it wouldn't have been on our radar. So Emily is the hero. She's the one that brought us all together, that saved the lives of 5 people, together with countless others who received various parts that we'll never know. Tonight we have 2 very special guest speakers, and we're really excited to hear them speak. With that, because Alicia told me make sure I am brief, and I do that well, I'm going to turn it over to Alicia. I'm going to remind her to be brief as well. And Alicia.
Well, I don't do it as well. I don't be brief as well. I just want to thank you all for coming again for our 6th annual Donor Shabbat. I have some friends that are sitting out here that have been at every single one of them, and of course my parents, all 3 of them, my mom and dad and my mother-in-law, who have also been at every single one of them, and I thank you. And now Ian and Marcy being a partner with us in this event is just so incredibly special. So I know I'm going to keep it short, but what I want to do is just talk about the Emily Stillman Foundation and what we have accomplished this year, because if I can't brag here, then I can't brag anywhere. I have to tell you that when I'm out and about and somebody stops me, because my license plate has a Gift of Life on it, and it says, it's a personalized plate that says vaccinate. So people stop me and they say, oh my God, you're Alicia Stillman. I know who you are. I saw you on TV, or I know who your daughter was. And I became an organ donor because of you, or I got my child vaccinated because of you. And I think of my Emily and I smile. And I know that I'm doing my job right. Because you see, when I said goodbye to my daughter on a very, very cold February morning, I promised her, I didn't understand yet why it was happening, but I promised her that she could go and be at peace and find my brother when she got there, but that I would be her voice in this world, and I would figure out what happened to her, and I would be her voice. And that's what I've done every single day since. So this year, I have continued my quest to be her voice. I have traveled a tremendous amount. I have traveled for exhibiting, presenting, giving interviews, taping, and I was her voice. I met with the medical community, policymakers, immunization groups, Counties, states, parents, students all across the country, sometimes on vaccine-preventable diseases, sometimes on organ and tissue donation, sometimes on community vaccination hesitancy, and I was her voice. This was the first year of our joint initiative with the Kimberly Coffee Foundation in New York, and together we established a credible program called Meningitis B Action Project, and I was her voice. Through MAP, if you haven't visited our website, I encourage you all to do so because it's really quite great. We launched several new campaigns, including a new video, built a champion list of over 2,000 supporters, and have distributed our resources across the country that are so good that the pharmaceutical companies have asked us to use our resources for people who want unbranded sources, and I was her voice. We developed an action toolkit to students and other moms across the country who are being advocates in our place because I am her voice. Not only in Michigan did we once again declare a Meningitis Awareness Month, but this year we were in DC and our resolution was read on the House floor of the United States Congress declaring Meningitis B Awareness Day. And I was there and I was her voice. We are working with colleges across the country as we try to mandate Men B vaccines on college campuses because I am her voice. We continue our partnership with the Gary Bernstein Community Health Clinic. Through our Emily Stillman Foundation Preventative Vaccine Program, we fund their vaccinations, from flu shots to shingles to Tdap to pneumonia, and of course, meningitis. I am her voice. This year, I figured out that I could also present in a classroom across the country from my desk wearing my PJ bottoms. And I am her voice. We built our first webinar, and we had 150 people sign up across the country, including the CDC, because they were interested in what we had to say, because I am her voice. I wore my PJ bottoms for that one, too. As you know, I only fundraise every other year, and this is an off year, but we still continue to raise money. We were granted several very notable grants from several large pharmaceutical companies, and we're working for other grants on our off years because I am her voice. So from strength to strength, we're thrilled you're here for our 6th annual Donor Shabbat. I thank you either already for being an organ donor, and if you're not, I'm sure you'll be signing up tonight. I thank you for talking about it and encouraging your friends and your family to sign up. I encourage you to talk about it at your dinner tables. I thank you for your support. And most of all, I thank you for letting me be Emily's voice. And now I'm going to introduce my very dear friend and my hero, Ian Bernstein.
That's not an easy act to follow. Sometimes in life you come across somebody you feel like you were meant to meet and to be friends with and close to. And Alicia and Michael, you guys just inspire me every day, so thank you. So it's great to be here tonight. And throughout our lives, I think there's many clubs we want to join, whether it's sports teams, fraternities, golf clubs. But being part of the transplant club is not something you dream of as a youngster. Yet, here we are. So for those who don't know my story, the short version is that my mother had a kidney transplant 20 years ago as a result of having polycystic kidney disease. So I was diagnosed shortly thereafter with the same disease. And so last summer, on July 29th, 2017, or 2 summers ago actually now, I joined the transplant club. And I received a kidney from my guardian angel, and his name was Tyler Wetzig. Tyler was only 26 years old when his life was tragically ended. And his parents, Guy and Jackie, with the encouragement of Guy's sister, who was a nurse, made the incredibly brave decision to donate his organs, and I am eternally grateful to receive Tyler's left kidney and become a member of the Transplant Club. So the gift of life it's beautiful, and I cannot believe how incredibly amazing I feel post-transplant. And I appreciate my working kidney every single day. So throughout this experience, I've met incredible people, just to name a few. My donor family, who I think about all the time. Obviously, Alicia, who's been a constant source of strength and counsel. To my new friend, Molly Williams. Molly received a kidney last month from a living donor named Christy Cooper. Molly and Christy were just strangers who happened to be working out near each other at the gym and got to talking about the fact that Molly needed a kidney. And amazingly, Christy volunteered to donate her a kidney, and she's my hero. I haven't met her yet face to face. I've talked only by email, but she's an incredible hero. And I'd like to add that Molly just shared with me tonight that because of her story, which was in the Free Press, she got contacted by another attorney who's going to donate a kidney to an eventual person that's going to need it. Just wanted to be a hero like Christy. And these are the stories that we need to share. And I'm so glad you're here, Molly. I'm so glad you're feeling well. So medical science is making just tremendous breakthroughs. However, the terrible statistic is that 13 people still die every single day waiting for a kidney. It's just something we need to change. It just has to change. So my transplant's given me my life back, and now I'm committed to make my club better, to do whatever I can to increase membership. I want to provide support to new members, encourage everyone to sign up, to be organ donors, spread the message of love and appreciation that comes along with club membership. That's my goal. So my hope is that all of you will join me in my quest, spread the word, and together we all can help others get the organs that they need. So now I have the great honor and pleasure of introducing you to the president, CEO, and chairman of that club, the Transplant Club. He is the director. He wouldn't allow me to give if I give you the formal introduction to Marwan, we'd be here a while. So the guy's an incredibly achieved man. He's the director of Transplant Institute and chair of the transplant department at Henry Ford. He's a husband, a father, a surgeon, a caregiver, a creator of the Center for Living Donation, and most importantly to me, a friend. To me, and not just me, but so many. I want to introduce Dr. Marwan Abeljoud from Henry Ford.
Thank you, Ian, and good evening, everybody. It's nice to be here, and I always remind myself that I'm a Muslim who went to Catholic schools, who loved the Jewish friends, and coming to the temples as often as he can. So thank you for welcoming here. Yes, faith is a complicated thing when you've been to so many different backgrounds. And my original language is not English. It is Arabic, and then subsequently French, and now it's American, and I have none of the three accents that I need to have. So bear with me tonight. It is very inspiring to be here tonight, truly. The service was so soothing and calming, and the sense of community is, you feel it through your bones, and it gives you so much inner strength and a sense of belonging that is very hard to duplicate. So thank you for that wonderful service tonight. When we think of transplantation and organ donation, it's not a speech, it's an experience, really, and then you try to convey it the best way you can. And historically, I was going to be a transplant surgeon. I'm a citizen of war, so people getting hurt, dismembered, injured. And then when I came to the United States, I was going to become a plastic surgeon again, but I realized that plastic surgery was a very good thing, but something struck me in the face, and this was the people dying from liver disease. And I was a resident at the University of Michigan. At any point in time, 2 or 3 people were dying in the ICUs from liver disease, bleeding, helmets to retain the bleeding in their gut. And all of a sudden, I sensed that there is a certain pulling, something that pulls you. You want it to be more relevant. You want it to be impactful, make a difference. And I gave up the 8 to 5 or 7 to 6 hour schedule into a 24-hour, 7 days a week schedule. And then there is a certain personal growth that goes with that. So perhaps maybe from my experience, I can share a couple of stories. And I will not belabor you with statistics that you can find on Google. It is important to donate. It's important to sign your donor card. But maybe through these two stories, we can understand, some of the personal side of what we do. Some years ago, maybe about 20 years ago, I was 5 years into my practice, and I was what you consider to be the warrior who goes to the front of the lines, fights the fight, but doesn't really feel as much because you have to stand up and make the fast decisions. You want to be that strong until at some point you lose that sensitivity, but not intentional. You're still a kind person. So I was doing an organ recovery by Kalamazoo, as a matter of fact, and I did one thing that we don't normally do very much. I got close to the deceased donor, who ends up being a 12-year-old who had fallen off a truck when he was playing, and somebody took off the truck, hit his head on the tarmac, and died. I walked by that kid, and I saw my son. And all of a sudden, there is a shiver that goes down your spine. And then tears that you didn't invite come out welling from your eyes. But you're the transplant surgeon, you're there to get organs. You're not there to emote and dig through the story. And the person who was with me doing the organ recovery, my life share coordinator, saw what was happening. He has seen it before happen with younger surgeons who didn't know how to deal with mortality. Took me aside right away, made me look the other way, walked out of the room, he said, "We're not here to do this. You can't do this." He says, what are you talking about? He said, "I know exactly what you're doing. You cannot do this. You cannot live the experience. It's not your family. You cannot read the story. You come here, you get delivered, and you go right back." But the one thing for weeks and days and months that could not wash away was not just the child, is what about that family? That family that had the child pass away, and they had to overcome this. They had to go through the sorrow and the grief of the loss and the memories and the beautiful memories they had, and then overcome all this to, resurrect hope in other people, and then go back through resurrection of a certain level of humanity, of kindness, of love, that maybe they've always had in them, but the death of the loved one just resurrected all this again. This is where we say, we love our children every day, but do we tell them that? We have many good memories every day, but we commemorate that. We don't do that often enough. But in that act, that family probably relived all those good experiences by doing a great act that gave them closure and then passed on life to the other people who were in need. And with this, Marsha and Mike, I applaud you for your humaneness and your kindness. This is a personal growth that is inspiring for all of us. And I can tell you that in the world of transplantation, we start as career people and technicians, but we go through it, the journey, and we become the human beings that we ought to be through you and other living donors and the transplant recipients who trust us because we do some amazing things for them as well. So this is the first experience through the donation that made us realize that donation is a sad thing, but it doesn't have to be sad because we all know there is a certain impermanence to life. Everybody has a term in life and a term somewhere else. And those who are donors, perhaps the gateway to heaven is open for them at the time as they ought to be. The second experience that is unique through the transplant recipient story, because when we do this, we go back home and then we have a lot of hope that this organ we're going to put in will work, that this, transplant recipient or candidate, the husband or this wife or the mother or the grandparent will live on through the experience and then make life count for themselves and for their family. So I have a poem that was written to me by a 15-year-old whose mother I was doing a liver transplant on. And she wrote it 2 weeks after the transplant. I'll tell you why. So if you bear with me, I will read that poem. I'll try to be as quick as I can. So the wonders of modern medicine, the miracles at work, joy of seeing loved ones live, sharing happiness and perk. But there's more than that. Many never see the stories between the lines, the story told by me, tales of late nights, bad food and no sleep, tales of intensive care units, and IV machines that beep. The emotion of real fear, knowing who's behind the OR door, having no control. You realize what praying for card games in the waiting room curling in a chair, soda pop and candy bars, morphine-scented air, no hot showers, no clean clothes. But you don't care at all, waiting in anticipation for the surgeon's update call. Finally, the moment comes. The surgeon's eyes meet ours. He removed his facial mask and told the story of the hours. The liver came out without a hitch, and in the new liver they popped. They thought they were home free, but then my mother's heart stopped. The doctors all did their best and tried to help her heart. But 18 minutes passed, and 10 minutes more. They thought it would start. The surgeon kept on trying. With fire in his eyes, and after what felt like an hour, he got a big surprise. She started again, healthy and strong. They got her through the night and sewed her up again. They made sure she was all right. They let us go in, and there she was, amidst a tangle of wires. She tries to talk to all of us, but quickly her body tires, but she made it through, and that's all that matters. We spread the word, and her story scatters. Another miracle worked, another job well done, joining all the miracles under the mother medicine sun. This is the story of Christine. Christine was a high school teacher in Ann Arbor. And when I saw her in the clinic, she said, "You're going to be my surgeon. When I come in, you're going to get called in." I said, "It's my privilege." She got called in. She gave me a bunch of CDs to play for her in the operating room. These were gospel CDs. So there I'm a Muslim guy playing gospel CDs. And I asked her, "Well, what am I going to do with these things?" She said, "If I die, you keep them." And I said, "Then for sure you're not going to die tonight." And I had a 19-year-old liver, and she was healthy. And the operation went without blood loss. I took the clamps off, and the anesthesiologist said, "Don, this is the fastest liver transplant you've ever done." No more than 3 minutes later, she flatlines. Liver turns black, guts turn black, and nothing was working. No understanding, no reason, no how, no why. 3 a.m. in the morning, you're fatigued and you're tired. Sense of defeat and loss ravages you. But you have no time for that. You got to be the warrior in the middle of the night. So we opened her chest, started massaging her heart. Her heart was dilated. Massaged, the wouldn't come back. Then we got the shocking machine. Shocked her 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. By then, 20 minutes went by, and she just said, "Quit. It's not coming back. Liver is black, no good. She'll be brain dead by now." I said, I'm not keeping those CDs. I'm going to keep going. So I kept going till 29 minutes. At 29 minutes, the anesthesiologist said, "We're calling it Marwan." I stopped for a second, in all anger. Chest is open, belly is open, blood everywhere. I flicked her heart with my middle finger, saying, "I saw it on TV, maybe that'll work." The anesthesiologist goes 5 seconds later, 10 seconds later, he said, "What did you just do?" He says, "Nothing." He says, "I see electrical activity in that heart." And the EKG started picking up, gave her epinephrine. Within 1 minute, she got a heart rate back at minute number 30. And then you leave desolate like you've lost a war, but she's living, but maybe not alive. 3 hours later, the ICU team calls me up. By then, I was laying down 6:30 in the morning. They call me up. She says, "Your patient wants to talk to you." I said, "What?" She said, "Yeah, we removed the tube." And I thought she was going to be brain dead. I go there, I say, "Christine, you're not supposed to be awake now." She goes, "You told me my belly would hurt. Why did my chest hurt so much?" She didn't know what happened. Christine went on to live over 13 years. Saw her daughter get married, saw a grandchild. And many people didn't know that Christine had a liver transplant. She was a teacher in high school. Transplant recipients are people like us. Transplant surgeons and doctors are people like us. So when we go around and say, promote organ donation, you're promoting organs to your neighbor, to your friend, to your doctor, to your coach. It is nothing strange. So when we want to promote organ donation, let's just say, let's donate an organ in the event my neighbor, my friend, my father, my son potentially needs a transplant. That's organ donation. That's organ transplantation. So when we think about it, I say, this is where the transplant providers, when they experience this, life comes out of them and then becomes like a well. It's that well that shows there is humanity in all of this. And it's only possible by people who donate, whether deceased donors and their families and the living donors, and we thank you for that. Now, people who are transplant recipients shape us as well, because they become our patients, sometimes our friends. Some people are with us tonight who are transplant recipients. I will not ask you to stand or say who you are or your privacy. But the magic of it is the transplant recipient could be the person sitting next to you at a board meeting, at a movie theater. Although if they're germophobic, they'll keep their distance, Ian, right? They'll shake your hand this way. But these are the people that have the human face to them. So when we say promote organ donation, and we have 114,000 people on the waiting list waiting for organs, and deceased donation, while it covers a good significant number, it really barely meets half the need that we want for the total number. So we depend on deceased donation, but also we depend on living donation. So I say that our deceased donors are the angels that took an early departure to heaven. The families are the ones that showed us their courage and their humanity to be able to do that. My living donors are my angels on earth. Because these are the people who come in and say, I want to donate, and maybe the recipient is somebody I don't know, but I'm going to donate to him or her. And we have those. And you come and say, teach me. How do you feel this way? What makes it happen in you? Make that humanity surface and share it with us. Because we become better by just watching you and learning from you. And these are our living donors. We've had some experiences among living donors, some inspiring, some scary. The inspiring ones teach us about who we are and who we should be. The scary ones we've had, and I do living donation, I'm passionate about living liver donation, and I started the program at Henderford in 2000, one of the earliest in the country. But I did have an experience where I almost lost a living donor. And that living donor bled out in the operating room, and their heart stopped in 30 seconds. I saw my career go away. I saw the whole team freeze. This is where you become the captain of the ship and you move on. You act. You don't emote. Believe it or not, after she died for 30 seconds, we got her back. She went home 5 days later. And she had bled out a minute before because the clamps came off from her heart. Well, when we went back and started visiting living donation, we said, you know what? There is something about this living donation thing. It's not just donating an organ. It's a human, it's a family, it's a daughter, it's a sister. We're going to redesign this. We're going to shape this. We're going to change this. And at Henry Ford, through our personal experiences, we decided we're going to separate the recipient teams from the donor teams. And that donor team became the center for living donation. These are people who ethically, emotionally, technically surround the living donor, surround the family, embrace them, support them, promote organ donation, but do it in an ethical way. It's a model at Henry Ford that like no other in the country. We started this year with the help of people like Ian Bernstein and Richard Nodell and others who supported us both, intellectually, financially, emotionally, and we are doing something good through the community. And that's the Center for Living Donation, to make a difference. So with this, my friends, I will not bore you with details about transplantation. We do a lot of it. We do all organs. We are very lucky at Henry Ford that we are the most comprehensive transplant center in the state of Michigan. There is only 3 centers in a 4-state area like us, in Cleveland and Indiana. We're very proud to be the only one in the state of Michigan to be fully comprehensive that way. And that can only happen if the community believes in us, invests in us, and we invest back by giving great service and being the human people we need to be. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you, Marwan. So our next speaker is the Reverend Patrick Gahagan, who will share his story. He is a recipient, and he's going to share his story from life to life. And I think you will agree with me that he really has a very motivational message.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. And thank you to Mike and Alicia, especially, and to Zachary, and also to Rabbi Mike as well, for this opportunity to speak before you this evening. I wanted to begin, I was thinking during our time of prayer this evening when the rabbi asked us, invited us to take a breath, just to take in a deep breath. And in the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 7, it talks about how the Lord God took from the dust and made humankind, made man, and put the breath of life into us at that time. So breathing is important, right? I'm sure everybody would agree. Breathing is important. In fact, the American Lung Association says that when you can't breathe, nothing else matters. Well, for me, breathing took on an extra component. I was born on July 26, 1970. When I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I was tested immediately for a disease called cystic fibrosis. The reason being is that my sister, who is 16 months older than me, who passed away 5 years ago now from this disease, she had already been diagnosed. At 1 year old, she was a very sick baby, and my grandmother was watching Phil Donahue. Does anybody remember Phil Donahue? He used to run around with the microphone. She was watching Phil Donahue, and she saw a story about a child with these symptoms, and the symptoms matched my sister. And my grandmother called my mother and said, "I think Kathleen has cystic fibrosis." And so sure enough, she was tested and did. So I was born, and they did the genetic testing on me, and I, too, was born with this disease. This disease affects your digestive system primarily, but that's easily corrected by taking enzymes. But after that, it affects your pulmonary system as well. And so for me, that's where it took hold. Now, I was raised by parents that believed that anything was possible. They saw cystic fibrosis not as an excuse, but an explanation about what our life would be challenged with. And so through most of my life, I was able to just live life. I was like any other kid. I played baseball, not very well, but I played. Ran track and played basketball in high school and lived a normal life until my senior year of high school is when I was first hospitalized for my condition. And then finally, after I'd finished college, I was called to go into seminary to become a pastor. And it was while I was in seminary that the disease really took hold and destroyed my lungs. And so January 1995, my doctor came to me, and Dr. Michael Constant at University Hospitals in Cleveland, Ohio, and he told me, he said, "Patrick, you are in end-stage lung disease." And then he told me, "The only hope you have is a double lung transplant." Now, this is back in 1995. Lung transplantation was still somewhat new, and I had had many friends who had the same disease I have, who had gone for transplants, and they just, it did not take very long. They did not live long after. In fact, one of my good friends died in the operating table as they were trying to remove his diseased lungs. So at first, I was apprehensive, but then I realized, again, it's the only hope you have. And so I went in search of a hospital to transplant me, and unfortunately, it was very difficult because what was killing me was an organism in my lungs, a bacteria that was resistant to all antibiotics. And so no one wanted to transplant me because you hook up new lungs to an infected airway, and the infections will get into those lungs. Well, finally, December of '95, Barnes Jewish Hospital in St. Louis, Missouri, agreed to put me on the list. And so that was December 1995. I was able to finish seminary. I was able to finish the 4 years of study, and I graduated. But by the time I graduated in '96, I was on oxygen 24/7, and I wish I had a slideshow. You would not believe how I used to look. I weighed 105 pounds. I couldn't walk to that door at that point as I had gotten so sick. And so I couldn't fulfill my dream of becoming a pastor. I had to go on disability and just hope and wait. And one of the difficult parts about being someone listed for an organ is you don't really know what to pray for, because you don't want to pray for an organ to become available, because that means, again, that someone else has died. And so it's a very troubling time to be. And in fact, I used to believe that if I ever got new lungs, that I would lay awake all night long and just think, I'm breathing with somebody else's lungs. But I just wasn't sure what was going to happen. And then in March of 1997, and I think it's so incredible I'm here today before you in this service and in this temple. In March of 97, I suffered a collapsed lung, a pneumothorax, which is basically a hole in your lung, like a balloon. And my lung would not inflate to get air into it. And so I was hospitalized in Shadyside Hospital in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And they shouldn't name a hospital Shadyside. But it was a blessing to me there. In fact, Shadyside Hospital is right near Squirrel Hill, where the recent tragedy took place there. And while I was hospitalized, I began to finally lose hope because my lung would not heal. And the doctors in Pittsburgh wanted to do a surgery. They wanted to do a surgical procedure that would basically stitch the lung to the chest wall so that my lung would adhere and I could take in a breath. The surgeon in St. Louis said that if you have that surgery, you cannot get a transplant because we could not get your lung out. So I was weighing between the hospital in Pittsburgh telling me, you have to get this surgery or you're going to die, and the doctor in St. Louis saying to me, if you have this surgery, you're going to die. And I didn't quite know where to go, what to do. And so my grandmother, God rest her soul, she was looking out for me as wanting to be a Lutheran pastor. So she sent to me 3 different pastors. I'm Lutheran, ELCA, Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. They sent 3 different pastors to see me. I was 26 years old. I was dying from this disease. I was giving up. I was losing hope. I was ready to stop. And all those pastors, all they wanted to talk to me about was the weather outside. One wanted to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was Pittsburgh. It's March, but it's Pittsburgh. And then another one wanted to talk about Puerto Rico, where they just come back from this trip. So finally, the nurse at Shadyside said to me, there's a rabbi here. She said, I know you're not Jewish, but there's a rabbi who's a great man. Can he come and see you? And I said, sure. So in walks Rabbi Nosen Sachs. And he looks at me, and I'll never forget this. He looks at me and he says, Patrick, how is your soul today? And I wept like a baby. It's just like I released all of this pain and fear and anger, everything that had welled up in my soul, I released it. And over those days and weeks till I finally got out, he became a good friend of mine. In fact, he taught me so much. One thing, he would always sit at the foot of the bed. He'd pull a chair and sit right at the foot of the bed. And I asked him, Rabbi, why do you stay away from me? Why aren't you close? Are you afraid you could get this infection I have? And he said, well, that's a practical reason not to get close. He said, but the reason I don't get too close to you is because the head of the bed of a sick person is holy ground. He said, God is all around you, and I don't want to contaminate holy ground, he said. And I'll never forget that moment, how he taught me where I was feeling God had abandoned me in my faith. He reassured it by reminding me that God was with me. And there have been so many God moments from then. And he and I became, again, good friends. In fact, it's funny, I always called him my Jewish rabbi. And he always say, is there any other kind of rabbi? But he and I became good friends. And so that was in March of 1997. So I was able to get out of the hospital, and then St. Louis calls, and they say, you're high enough on the transplant list, you need to move out here. So my mother and I packed up our car and moved out to St. Louis. Now, I got out to St. Louis, and they did more genetic testing, and they found that I had a very rare antibody in my blood. In fact, it's an antibody they often find with women who've had babies. And I assured them, I have never had a child. But they told me that more than likely now you're going to have to wait perhaps for a whole year till we find someone that matches, because this antibody's so rare. And again, as I shared, I was already so close to death as it was. So that was in June of '97. And then that day came. August the 6th, 1997. August the 6th, 1997. It's like your day of February 2nd, 2013. I got the call. In fact, my beeper went off. Do they still give beepers? Well, you got a beeper. And then I got a phone call, and they said, it looks like we found a donor. Now, my lungs were actually given from a donor in Dubuque, Iowa. And unfortunately, as I shared at dinner, I don't know my donor's family. I don't know who my donor was. They have stayed anonymous all these years. So I'm not sure. I can't share you much about their life story. But I do know that on August 6, 1997, there was a family whose loved one, whose wife, husband, son, or their daughter had experienced a tragic event. Someone that perhaps had left that morning saying goodbye was never now to return. And they were faced with a choice with, what do we do? What do we do? And here was this young man, 27 years old, in St. Louis, who just wanted to live, who just wanted to breathe again. And so they decided to go with love and to choose life. And they said yes, and they allowed for my donor's organs to be shared with those in need. And I always thought, again, that the beauty of, and there's so much God in organ donation. And sometimes, even as I recount it, I can just get overwhelmed with the God presence. Because with their last breath, some hours later, I then took my first breath. And when you think about it for a moment, with these lungs, my donor, in the first seconds of life, they took a breath and they cried. With these lungs, my donor blew out birthday candles on a birthday cake. With these lungs, my donor laughed and they cried and maybe they sang. My donor ran, my donor breathed with these lungs. But what's so amazing is now I breathe. I breathe. And it's been over 21 years now. 21 years, which I have to tell you is pretty long in lung transplantation. I sometimes have doctors of other disciplines ask me, how long is it going to last? I don't know. It doesn't come with an expiration date. All I know is they're still working. They're still breathing. But because of their choice, with the breath of life, I was so blessed. In 1998, I was called to Detroit, Michigan, is how I got here, to serve Emmanuel Lutheran Church on Detroit's east side near Chandler Park and City Airport, where I served for 17 years and met so many incredible people and did such incredible ministry in Detroit. In 2003, I met the love of my life. In 2004, we were married. I became a husband because of that breath of life. And then in 2013, or 2011, I met my daughter, who we adopted at 3 years old, who is now 10 years old, and is as sassy as all can be. And then a year and a half later, the adoption agency that our daughter came to us from called, and they wanted to meet with us. And my wife said, "Can you be home early this evening for a meeting?" And so I said, "Sure." So I came home early, and in the living room was our caseworker for our daughter, and with her was an 18-month little boy who had been horribly neglected, and for only 18 months of life had experienced incredible trauma. But she brought this little boy into my living room and asked if we would consider adopting him too, because they thought we'd be a good family. And what am I going to say? No? It was set up. My wife knew too. And the irony is, for Stillmans, we named our son Zachary, because the name Zachary means the Lord has remembered me. And that was the name we gave to my son, who today is 6 years old. And so again, I stand here before you this evening. I stand here as a pastor, a husband, a father, but just simply as a human being. And I'm here because on August 6, 1997, in Dubuque, Iowa, a family decided, a family chose, a family decided to go with love, to go with God, and to let life continue. And so again, with these lungs that my donor once breathed with, I still breathe today. And I can assure you one thing I know: I will meet them someday. I'll meet them in the next life, and I will be able to let them know how grateful I was, how honored I've been to be a part of their life, and their life a part of mine, as the breath of life continues on. And one thing I also share with you tonight, as I again love what Rabbi did with us, sometimes when life can get so much, because I forget, it's been 21 years, right? I forget about what has already happened in my life. I kid you not, there have been moments in life when my donor will remind me. I will hear a presence say to me, "Just breathe." And so when life gets too much sometimes, and it's overwhelming, please take that advice. Just take a moment and just breathe and feel that breath of life that God has given to all of us. Thank you very much.
These humbling moments for us, Alicia, that you make possible. I say Alicia, yeah, there's 4 people that made it all possible, but Alicia, as Michael said too, that bringing us all together. And David, thank you for being a part of this as well, representing Henry Ford Hospital in the work you're doing. Really, really important. This is incredibly meaningful for us. You know, there's times that we're touched in life, and so many moments that have come together in this evening as well. Doctor, as you said, you know, here you're a Muslim speaking at a synagogue, and then a Christian Lutheran pastor gets up and preaches from our pulpit, and we're a Jewish congregation filled with a lot of guests tonight too. And I think that's the greatest affirmation of life that there is, for us to remind ourselves of what humanity can do for one another. It doesn't matter how we pray or in what direction we pray, but that we understand that we respect and honor one another, and that the gift of life is a part of what we all do and what we celebrate on really every day with our very breath and our very being. And that is the most powerful thing I think we can share today. So tonight is as we honor Emily Stillman, and what her life gave us and shared with us, and her message is the importance of all of us signing up and keep continuing to teach that too. And so we're really blessed that because of her legacy, her parents and other friends, the Bernsteins, have helped bring this to fruition for Temple Shir Shalom. So we hope that you'll sign up if you haven't as of yet, and you'll be a part of that in the future. Whenever we come together here at Temple, we always have a moment for a question or two as a tish. A tish is a table in Yiddish, and the rabbis of old would sit around a table after their Shabbos study, their Shabbos prayer, and answer any question they had about Jewish law or lore, and we always do that as well. And you may have a question about a lot of other different things, about organ donation to one of our guest speakers tonight, and you can ask that, or about anything else, about the diseases that were talked about tonight, or about the experiences that were shared, and that's okay. I don't have to talk anymore. I will mention Rabbi Daniel Schwartz is not here because he's with our high school kids today and on their trip this weekend, this Shabbat, with 46 high school kids. Stephanie, remember? There's like 20 of us who went on those trips. So there's 46 high school kids who are with Rabbi and our high school staff. It's not that he didn't want to be here, contrary to what some have shared, but that he's disappointed to miss this, but is taking care of our kids and having a wonderful experience as they explore their Judaism on a great retreat this weekend together. So, a moment before we have a special oneg, thanks to the Stillmans and the Bernsteins and the Emily Stillman Foundation, and we can schmooze a little more and share a little more, but a question that you may have before we do. Sally Jo. What organs, doctor, can living donor... One sec, I got you here. Wait, I'll get a microphone here. What donors can living donors donate? What did I say?
What organs? Yeah.
What did I say?
What donors? We'll take that too.
Back to my office, Michael.
It's a good question. Kidney donation is the most common one because we have two kidneys, and if your kidneys are healthy, you're healthy. The other kidney picks up extra power, and the most common donation is kidney, and probably a good half of the kidney transplants in the country are living donors, from living donors. And likely that number will rise even more. Liver donation can be done, a little bit more complicated, a little more specialized, less in frequency. So when you think of it, in the United States, there is about maybe 400 of those. And there is 15,000 people on the waiting list for livers. So that's give you an idea about proportions. For kidney, on the other hand, it is in the order of 30,000, and half of those are kidney transplants and from living donors. Now, people have tried intestinal living donation, and that didn't last very long. And some people have tried lung partial donation. That also didn't work as well. And that's where we stand. Oh, I'm sorry. For solid, I was referring to solid organ, but for hematopoietic organ, obviously living donation, anybody is a bone marrow donor. It's a little bit different mechanism because you donate, you're on a donor list, and then they extract bone marrow and they take stem cells from that. So obviously that's considered living donation, but it's not solid organ. So I was answering you solid organ. But hematopoietic donation is a living donor process.
Good question. Yes. Go to this side. Yes. Yeah, I'm really an expert on this one.
Yeah, that's a very specialized expertise area. I'm a surgeon, and we're told we're not very smart by the medical doctors. But the question is, what about cloning organs and about printing organs? These are very different things, obviously. There are, probably I would answer it in, just to keep it brief, in two different ways. One is the effort to put organs together through bioprinting or doing bioframes or bioskeletons and then populating those things with cells is now in the research space. And people have been able to make vessels out of those kind of designs. They make segments of intestine, but the segments of intestine are not functional yet. People have taken hearts from deceased donors, took the muscles out, and then they take stem cells and they recellularize the heart, and it becomes a new heart. But these have not made it yet to the clinical arena because there's such complexity with the organs that you're putting cells in to restore them that not all the functions are restored. Now, in terms of cloning, I think this more goes along the animal side of things. So this is where you do xenotransplants, which means you get a pig, you take DNA from humans, then you infuse them in the pig, then the pig makes babies, those babies have human DNA, pig DNA, and then the kidneys you hope that will be acceptable to the human. And this research has been around for 40 plus years, but some of the researchers doing this, namely we're in Indiana, moved the lab down to Alabama, University of Alabama, tell us that if the FDA lets them do it, in 6 months to a year, they will have humanized pig kidneys that they can put in humans. Other people are going the baboon way because the baboon is a close primate, and they want to do the baboons, but the baboon opens up a whole different Pandora's box because they're expensive, they have viruses, and they don't, regenerate like pigs. You can have pig farms making pigs like there's no tomorrow. Now, I am in a temple. I will not talk about pork.
That's right.
So I'm just saying.
The halal kashrut argument now is right. So
we'll have to come up with a better solution.
It's okay. Yeah. I mean, the kidneys are one thing, but the ribs are awesome. Oops, sorry. So, Carl, you have a...
Yeah, I'm broadly focused. What about the experiments in China? How is that going to affect those experiments? Which ones particularly?
DNA or?
No, with the DNA or the experimentation in terms of
Cloning?
I think maybe I can broadly say that in the Far East, they have had a lot less challenges or difficulty crossing the ethical boundaries, politically correct said. And so in some parts of Indonesia and other parts, they're experimenting with stem cell transplants and so on and so forth, that this is where the research is going far further and faster than the United States because they're passing the ethical boundaries. In China, on the other hand, they're more rudimentary, as a matter of fact, because they're the ones who invented the organ donor truck, where people who were supposed to be persecuted would be persecuted in a van that is an ambulance, and organs get extracted and then get transplanted. And some of them are anti-regime people and saying, so everything happens in China is ethically very charged. And I would say that I would stick with what is happening in the United States, because at least it has an ethical framework. And then the other thing is we've had people who went and got transplanted in some parts of the world. Not every part is bad, but some parts, and came back with some really unusual complications, whether it's infections or products put in them and things. So I would say some parts of the world are amazing. They're doing things as good as we are or better, cheaper. But some parts of the world, I probably would not want to be getting an organ transplant.
So, quick announcement as well. Again, we have a special ONEG as we celebrate this, the honor and the opportunity for this as well. And we encourage, if you haven't signed up as well, we have signed up to be a donor, to add that to your license in the future too. Next week is, Hanukkah begins in the Jewish community on Sunday evening. And so next Friday night is our family Hanukkah Shabbat here at Temple. And for those who are going to Israel in the near future, especially those going on the family trip with me, or those who are going to play and finish their completion of Aliyah, we have a special blessing for those who are coming. We ask you to come to services, and we send us off well in that journey of health and of strength as well. I think we have the youngest child, a 9-day-old child here to be a part of Organ Donor Shabbat. Is right? How old's Weston? 9 days? 10 days. Sorry, I exaggerated. Whoops. So, moments like this are blessings for us. And, I think as the pastor shared, and the difficulty in experiencing the loss and recognizing how it's helped someone else, but in what the Stillmans have given to us as a community in the midst of their loss, but realizing how much they can share and they're able to share, and how much life they can create in that as well. And I think that's what we all want to take away from this kind of experience, but really from the relationships that they've created for us as a community and how much we learn from one another. Really, for us, such a privilege and such an honor. And I think for all of us, we should feel that tonight too, and know that very humbling and really a blessing for us. So with that in mind, I ask us all to rise as we ask God to bless us with our concluding prayers tonight. Adonai oz le'emo yitain. May God bless us all with strength. Adonai varech et amo v'shalom. May God bless us all with peace. Peace in our hearts, peace in our minds, and may God help us, all of us in our world, bring more peace into our world. Amen. Good Shabbos, everyone. Thank you.